Most studies on media portrayals of Latinos in the United States focus on women. This study is a groundbreaking research that attempts to understand the portrayal of Latino men in U.S. Spanish language television. To do so, an examination of the background and evolution of U.S. Latino men and of Spanish language telenovelas is conducted. The methodology for this study includes a qualitative textual analysis based on Sonia Foss, rhetorical criticism to observe the symbolic representation of men in three Spanish language telenovelas, Por ella so lleva, Betty la Fea, and La Reina del Sur, to understand what the portrayals of Latino men in Spanish language television suggest, the feminist approach of invitational rhetoric and the media criticism of cultivation analysis serve as theoretical frameworks. One of the most relevant findings implies that the portrayal of Latino men in U.S. Spanish language telenovelas does not reflect the changing roles of Latino men in the U.S. Furthermore, this representation of men in telenovelas perpetuates a homogenized and inaccurate representation of U.S. Latino men as oppressive and patriarchal figures. The researcher identified the four main findings concerning the representation of Latino men in telenovelas aired on U.S. television, in which are supported by the theoretical framework used in this study. The first finding reveals that U.S. Latino men are culturally different from Latino men living in Latin America because they are exposed to different experiences at home and in society. Secondly, most telenovelas aired in the U.S. represent the experiences of Latino men who live in Latin America and not the experiences of Latino men living in the U.S. The third outcome is that the characters in the telenovelas, including those identified in the study and others aired in the U.S., are of Mexican origin, and the stories unfold within the realities of Mexican culture. This limited representation of culture in telenovelas creates a homogenized and vague depiction of Latin men. The fourth finding is that men are generally associated with negative attributes in telenovelas, dismissing their positive traits. This discussion leads to the recognition of the effects of television on viewers' perception and the need to accurately portray U.S. Latino men in order to present a more truthful picture for viewers. The telenovelas chosen for this study are modern and contemporary. Though the premise behind telenovelas has evolved somewhat, they remain fundamentally machista. Their basic themes and plotline have not changed and continue to focus on women's journeys to find their prince charming while depicting men as the more valuable member of society. In other words, in telenovelas, women struggle to conquer the men they love while sustaining the primacy of the Latino man as a member of the society depicted and the stereotypical implication associated therein. In general, telenovelas validate machismo. However, contemporary telenovelas are questioning gender behavior and roles. Consequently, this study inquires into the role of men in the near future if negative stereotypes continue to be reinforced in telenovelas. Likewise, the effects of television viewing reinforce attitudes and views of women as victims of men's undefined behavior. Therefore, this study yields a new approach to telenovela productions that foster gender equality and a more accurate representation of U.S. Latino men.